All right, we are in the Ramchal Derech Hashem video 3 of week 1. The study of Torah, chapter 4, section 4, chapter 2. The study of the Torah is an absolutely necessary matter, for without it, one cannot do what the Torah commands. Because if a person does not know what he's supposed to do, how can he do it? In addition, however, Torah study is in its own right, is an end in itself, where it plays a very large role in bringing man perfection, as we mentioned briefly earlier. Let us now elaborate. Of all the influences that God causes to emanate from Him for the sake of His creations, one is higher than all the others, being more dear and precious than anything else that God created. So there's an influence coming into the world that for the sake of His creation, right? This influence is the closest thing to God Himself that can be found in creation. Its loftiness and excellence resembling God's own to some degree. So it's like they are tools to connect, and when I connect to that thing, I'm able to experience God's perfection to the highest degree. Through this influence, God enables creation to actually partake of some of His glory and perfection. I can experience God's glory, God's greatness, God's perfection through that. This influence, however, was bound by God to yet another creation, the Torah, which God designed specifically to carry this influence to the physical world. So the Torah is the tool that brings God influence, the glory, the perfection, the holiness into the world. That's so in practice, the influence arises by means of two activities. So how does it work? How do we bring this influence through learning Torah? Namely, the speaking and the understanding of the words of Torah. So when you speak, it brings the influence down, and when you understand the words of Torah, same thing. As mentioned previously, God chose a particular combination of words and sayings to constitute the Torah, which consists of the 5 books. On the lower level, the Nevi'im, and 3, the Ketuvim. So the 5 books, the prophets, and the holy writings. So that means that God then bound the aforementioned influence to the words of this book in such a way that when a person actually pronounces the words of Torah, the influence is transmitted to him. So when you learn the Chumash, it has more power, more energy, more influence. It brings more holiness than prophets, and which brings more than Ketuvim. But they all do. And when we do that and pronounce the words or understands, it's transmitted to you, to us. This is therefore the concept of involvement in the Torah. So the simple recitation of these books can have a great effect if done under conditions that will be discussed shortly. The same is true of comprehension. Through the content of these words' true meaning, this influence is transmitted to the one who comprehends them. So by pronouncing the words, the influence will come. Also by understanding the true meaning of what we're reading, true meaning, it's going to come down. But there's 2 conditions for that to happen again, okay, to be effective, the influence to come. So that's the activation of those things. But how is activation actually valid? Thus, as in the case, there's like 2 firewalls. Just as in the case of all other influences and concepts in creation, this influence has many degrees. The effect of both the recitation and the comprehension are thus differentiated as deemed proper by the highest wisdom. Each different recitation, therefore, transmits a particular degree of this influence. Each time we say something, it brings something down, but it's not the full flow. We're not turning the valve. This, it can be a little droplet, or it can be Niagara Falls. So how much is it going to come down? The same is true of comprehension when there is no element of Torah study. However, that does not transmit some degree of there is no element of Torah study, however, that does not transmit some degree of the highest influence as long as the necessary conditions are fulfilled. So everything, it is always, whatever we do, it is always influence, but as long as the conditions are fulfilled. As here it is obvious that the higher the level of comprehension, the higher will be the corresponding influence derived through it. So we go deeper and deeper, and the more I get it, the more I understand I get it, the more it brings energy and perfection into the world, the more it affects me. I become more holy and more connected to perfection. An individual who understands only the language of a Bible passage is therefore not equal to one who understands its meaning. Right? So likewise, one who understands only its superficial meaning is not the same as one who delves more deeply. So the more you go, the more. So that's why, according to the Ramchal, if you learn Kabbalah, which is the deepest learning of Torah, that's where you have. That makes the Niagara Falls. You learn Kabbalah and understand it. That it brings Niagara Falls of holiness in the world. Furthermore, even when one does go into the deeper meaning, the more he delves, the higher will be his level. It is an aspect of God's love, however, that even the lowest level of comprehension can transmit a degree of this influence. So if I learn like a child, or I learn, Avram Lech Lecha left for his father's house on a very simple level, on the Pshat level, is still God. It's a gift from God that we should receive some influence from it, even though we don't understand it completely. Everyone who comprehends any element of the Torah can thus benefit from its great influence merely as a result of what is bound together with such comprehension. The same is true. So even if I don't pronounce the words, I'm reading I'm reading the Ramchal, and it's not the words from Tanakh or Nevin Ketuvim, but I understand deep more how the world works, how learning Torah works right now. And that understanding of how the system works brings perfection to work, makes me more aware, affects my neshama, and brings attach me more closer to God. That's the goal, dvekus. The same is true of one who does not understand the words at all, but only reads them. Even this is a means through which some of the influence can be granted. So this is also the greatest gift, that even if I read the Torah, even when I don't understand its meaning, and they say some, even if it's the Zohar that you read, you don't understand it, this is going to actually have an impact into the world. So to a greater or less extent, virtually every Jew therefore has access to this highest influence. So even though I might not understand the words of Hebrew, it has an impact in the world. That's a gift from God. Ideal is to have both combined, obviously. Now, and it's important to understand that this comprehension, and is also the saying, when I say the words, my mouth, it reads, it sends vibration into the world. Those vibrations are the letters of the Torah, are the letters of creation with which God created the world. Those frequencies goes in the world, and therefore it brings with it, it's like a vessel that brings the light of that energy, activates the things above, and makes the world be perfected when I do it. So just to understand a bit the system. He said, the Baal Shem Tov says that every word is Olam Shana Nefesh. Every word is a world, a time, and a soul connected to it. So it's very deep. Something's happening. Now, okay, we go section 4. On one level of the Torah's influence is therefore to reward the effort that people put into it according to the true measure of that effort. So the more you put effort into it, that you're ready to stay awake or to work hard or to work less, meaning hours, and spend more time and really break your head to understand something, and an effort that you're excited about it, and you're doing as much as you can. So that brings actually influences, it brings more Torah power down. Beside this, however, there is another aspect and level, and that is to rectify creation as a whole. Not only not only it's influence through effort, but you are actually sending perfection into the world. The whole world is fixed by that. There is no element in all of creation that is not rectified through the Torah. Furthermore, each element of the Torah has the ability to perfect some part of creation. An individual so that's why every part of Torah that we learn corresponds to one part in creation. So it's so important to learn everything as much as we can to be able to fix all of creation. That's the same thing. The 613 commandments correspond to the 613 parts of our body, because we are olam katan. So we fix our entire body when we learn Torah also. Okay, an individual who wants to serve his Creator with complete devotion must therefore involve himself in every aspect of the Torah to the best of his ability. Through this, he can take part in the rectification of all creation. So we have the ability to do that. So even if he's not a Kohen, he's learned about Kohen, he's able to fix the Kohen of the world. It's the same thing when we make a bracha about water. I have the ability to fix that water, or to fix all the water, the minerals, the olam asiyah of the world, the domain level. Our sages therefore teach us one should divide his study to include 1/3 scripture, 1/3 Mishnah, and 1/3 Gemara. So split into three. The Rambam also says the same thing. So Torah shebichtav, which is Tanakh. Mishnah is, according to the Rambam, is Torah Shebe'al Peh, which is all the explanation of on the Tanakh, and the basic, commandments, and then the Gemara is understanding something from something else. It's not just the Talmud. It's actually, of course, the Rambam says the pardes. It's Pshat Ramesh Drusod, learning the Torah on 4 different levels. It includes the Kabbalah and secrets, and it's also includes the Talmud and Halacha, and how we derive everything from each other. So that's the three. We should try to split into three. This includes every element of the Torah, and one should divide his study among them until he grasps them all, not omitting anything. The amount of one's study in each area, however, should depend on his own particular nature and situation. This has already been discussed in a separate essay, which should be consulted. So, the Chokhmah that we were learning. So the idea is that we have those 3 sections, but the more you know well Tanakh, Torah Shebichtav, Torah Shebe'al Peh, the more you should spend time on Gemara, which is learning how to understand Hashem more deeply, learning Kabbalah most of the time, the Talmud and Kabbalah, and reviewing just once in a while Tanakh and Mishnah. Okay, number 5. In order to have its desired effect study of the Torah must conform to 2 conditions. So we say that we need to speak and understand, and that the effort we do, that brings the influence, and also that we are able to influence the whole world. But these are only 2 conditions for this to work. If you don't do those 2 things, all your learning of Torah doesn't work. So what are those? These are reverence of the study itself. You need to hayira betalmud atzmo, understanding that the study that's happening, it's not something just IQ intellectual. It's something very deep. It's something Kabbalistic. It's something spiritual. It's something beyond me that's happening there when I learn. So it's not opening a mathematic book. And number 2, tikkun hama'aseh b'choles, and that we have to fix our character traits all the time. I have to be constantly involved in introspection, Messilas Yesharim, basically. So we understand that those 2 things are necessary for the thing to happen. Otherwise, I can be learning Torah all day. I can be trying to understand Torah all day. If I don't have those 2 conditions, nothing. The only reason why the Torah has any power at all is because God bound His most precious influence to it, making it dependent on the Torah. It is for this reason that reciting and comprehending it can transmit this influence. If God had not made it so, then the Torah would be no different from any other educational book involving the various aspects of natural inquiry. These books may contain accurate and valuable information, but they do not incorporate any significance and excellence of the soul of a person who reads, recites, or comprehends them. Books such as these, meaning secular books, science book, doesn't matter. Furthermore, meaning anything that's not Torah, have absolutely no power to rectify creation. There's no other book that does that. So we understand like what's happening here. The influence of the Torah, however, is a godly thing, as discussed earlier. Not only that, but it is the highest and most important of all the concepts transmitted and conveyed by God to man. Our most powerful connection. That's what He gave us. That's the gift. That's the power. That's what makes us unique as Jews. That we say it and we understand it. We understand that this rectifies the world. This is Or LaGoim. It's our mission. Because of this fact, it is imperative that one should have reverence and awe when involved in the Torah. So, it's like it's not feeling really to learn Torah in pyjama. Yes, you can, but it's not the ideal. The real Yira is understanding what's happening here is like I'm entering into a deep spiritual domain. So ideally we should dress properly when we learn Torah. We should. It's not a joke. I don't put my phone on the table. Yeah, let's learn. It's cool. There's something much deeper. What one is then doing is approaching to his God and evolving himself in the transmission of the great light from God to himself. The individual involved in the Torah should therefore be abashed by his human lowliness and tremble before God's loveliness. If I really understand, I'm opening my book. Chazal said that Hashem is opening the Arizal, the same book with you, and is learning with you at that moment. It's incredible. You know what's happening? The angels are surrounding you. The Ramchal is right here listening to us. There's something beyond happening. He should rejoice in what he can attain, but even this should be combined with the greatest possible awe. So you'll be happy, but understand like there's something unique happening. It's not a joke. It is all the more, it's important, it's nuclear power here. It is all the more important that, and understand that if it's not done properly, the klipos brain is like, it makes an explosion, and the force of evil take that energy, feeds that energy. It's like little vampires of Torah energy. It is all the more important that one not behave frivolously when involved in the Torah and not show any disrespect for its book or their words. So you should kiss when you finish to learn. You kiss your books this week. Kiss the books of Torah. You make careful. You put a Tanakh on top of a Gemara on top of a Musar. So there are levels, right? The Siddur on top of other English books. Make sure that you understand the different levels. There's Tanakh, Nevim, Ketuvim, Gemara, Torah Shebe'al Peh, right? So there are different levels. Appreciating when you pass a book, it's like here you pass it with care, and you make sure they don't fall, you hold them tightly. Understanding this is pressure, this is nuclear weapons here, this is like beyond. That when occupied with the Torah, one must realize before whom he stands. You're in front of God when you learn Torah. God learns with you. When one fulfills these conditions, then his study of the Torah is as it should be. Then it activates, then it works. He can then draw. That's why you can have people learning all day in yeshiva and all day in kollel, and nothing, they're not changing, they're still the same person, there's no neshama growing, they're not connecting, because they're not understanding what they're dealing with, what's happening. The second Beit HaMikdash got destroyed like that. Mitzvot Anashim Milumada. We did the mitzvot out of rote. We learned Torah. We didn't say a bracha before the Torah, because the Torah was just like, I'm learning mathematics. I'm learning anything. It's not different. I'm just intellectual pursuit. Then nothing happens. You're not rectifying the world, and the temple got destroyed because of that. He can then draw. So if he does that the right way, when one fulfills this condition, then his study of the Torah is as it should be. He can then draw down the influence discussed earlier and incorporate in himself godly excellence, and as well as rectify and illuminate all creation. If this condition is not met, however, then it will not result in any such illumination. Meaning nothing is going to happen. And reciting words of the Torah will be no different than any other human speech. It's like you're reading a book in English, a novel. Reading it will be no different from reading a letter, and thinking about it no different from considering any worldly matter. Quite to the contrary, such involvement will be considered misdeed. It's like an avera. It's like you're just destroying what Torah really is. Since this person is approaching the holy without reverence and behaving frivolously while speaking in the presence of his creator and occupying himself with his holiness. The value of the person's study and the level of the resulting influence therefore vary according to the degree of his reverence and the measure of his respect and attentiveness. we're gonna stop here, and next time we will go on the second conditions, which is rectifying one's deeds. I don't want it to be too long either. So understand what's happening when you learn Torah. You fix all of creation. Your neshama is affected. That's why we can be happy. You can have energy when you Torah. But you need to make it seriously and understand what's happened. You need to understand that you can connecting to God. There's something miracles happening when you do that. It's the gift of God. So if we take that to heart and treat Torah and desire Torah because we understand its power. Today I want to change the world. You want how to change the world? Learn Torah. Say the words. Understanding as deep as you can. You're fixing the world. That's what we can do every day of our life. And you get excited. And your soul gets excited. You connect to truth. The Torah has to be exciting. You're going to know if it's true when you start feeling the excitement of the truth of the Torah. So, God may be willing, may we be able to change the world. Baruch Adonai L'olam. Amen v'amen.